What's up, folks, and welcome back to Dyce Reacts, where we are staying in Australia tonight. Oh yeah, we are going to be checking out 11 things you must know about Australians at work. Very much side checks one out. We ain't going to waste no more time. We're just going to get right into it, folks. We're going to get right into it. Oh yeah.
Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about the Australian workplace culture and what it is like to work in Australia, especially if you're in a professional job. So if you're interested, keep watching. What's expected behavior in an Australian workplace? Australian workplaces tend to be very informal, and most organizations have a horizontal or flatter organizational structure. This means that people tend to work in teams and all employees are considered equal, and everyone's opinions are usually considered and heard. But of course, this depends on the company. There are companies that are very hierarchical, and that means that usually decision making is at the top and then everyone else does whatever the boss wants. Typical work hours in Australia, especially in office-based jobs, are from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. But there's a lot of flexibility in work hours, and depending on the employer, you can actually negotiate with them your different work arrangements, and you may start a bit late and then leave the office a bit later as well. Okay. Australian workplaces and Australian people in general are super relaxed and very laid back. Australians also tend to be super friendly and always laughing and smiling and making jokes. Something that caught my attention is that you call everyone by their first name or nicknames, and if you have a bit of a long name, for example, if your name is Susan, they're going to call you S, so they call you by your initials. And I know that this is something very common in English-speaking countries, and yeah, it's great. Australians are also very polite and very respectful, and that's something that I love about Australia. And the expectation is that everyone says thank you, please, sorry, apologies, excuse me, no worries, my pleasure. And there's a lot of respect when you talk to people. Having said that, Australians can also be very direct in comparison to other cultures.
Yeah, because I was waiting for the part about being direct, because I've heard so many people say that they are straightforward people, they are direct, they don't sugarcoat per se. Yeah, it's not that it might come across as disrespectful, especially if you're someone that's just straightforward and you don't sugarcoat. People might mistake it for being disrespectful, being rude, and they might look at you and tell somebody else that this guy or this individual is, he's rude, so be careful or whatnot. But the individual have to find out themselves that you're not disrespectful, you're just straightforward. Because there are times people have said that in certain workplaces, or this person is, it's not that they are not nice or whatnot. We come to find out that I love that individual because they're straightforward. So that's how I started to notice that people can misinterpret how someone is, based on being straightforward. Some people just don't, most people just don't like people that are straightforward. People just love fakeness. They don't want to hear the reality of anything. So I can understand why they're going to feel uncomfortable with someone being straightforward, because the world is full of fake people. But Australians are not like that. So I've heard.
And they really value honesty. So if you have a question or you didn't get something that your boss told you, just ask again. Say, hey, I didn't get that. Can you say that again, please? For them, when people ask questions, this means that they are engaged and interested and willing to learn. Another great thing that I love about working in Australia is that workplaces tend to be very multicultural. So it's likely that you'll have colleagues from all over the world, but also colleagues who are from your same country and who speak your same language. And this is great. But in the Australian workplace, it's generally not considered professional when you speak in a language that your colleagues can't understand. So if you're at work and you have someone who speaks your same language, try to stick to English only. This is out of respect for your colleagues who can't understand what you're saying. You may be making fun of them, but they don't have a clue. So speaking in language other than English is not super professional. Bear that in mind. And speaking of multicultural diversity, people from different cultures, behave in different ways at the workplace. In the case of Australia, it's common practice to look people in the eye when you're talking to them. That is, make direct eye contact, both with females and males. When you greet someone for the first time, it's common practice to shake their hand and say, nice to meet you too. And when you say bye, you shake their hands or you just say bye from a distance. I come from a culture where when you meet someone new or someone you know or your boss or your colleague, you usually kiss them on the cheek, and this is not appropriate here in Australia. I have a friend who came to work here, and on her first day she kissed her boss on the cheek, and her boss was taken aback. He was like, what are you doing? And poor my friend, she was just so used to greeting people in that way. And so heads up, that's not appropriate in Australia.
Good to know.
Okay, now, what are the behaviors that you should avoid in the Australian workplace? Someone says something to you and you didn't get that or you didn't understand it. Instead of saying what, say sorry, pardon. Can you say that again, please? This is a bit more professional and more polite. Australians really love punctuality, so don't be late to work or meetings. This is something that's considered rude. And if you are late, let your manager or the person who you're having the meeting with know that you're going to be late, and just give them a heads up. Avoid swearing or making jokes or comments that may come across as racist or offensive in the workplace, because Australia has very strong anti-discrimination laws. For example, making comments about someone's appearance or treating them differently because of their gender, their ethnicity, background. This may come across as discrimination and you can get fired in Australia for this. So be mindful of that. Talking or debating about politics or religion is not common in Australia, so avoid these kind of topics. And as you may know, Australians are very...
That's interesting. That's the first time I'm hearing somebody make that remark. Religion and politics not common in Australia. I would think that this would be like a worldwide thing. Yeah, it's kind of weird that it's not common. I don't know what's the familiarity with her when it comes to these topics per se. Maybe it's just her bubble in terms of her setting. But religion and politics, I mean, this is something that's everywhere in every country. So it's strange she made that remark. I don't know whether to believe it or not. I mean, if she said it's not common in to have those kind of conversation in workplace when it comes to like those practices, I would say okay. But when she's saying in general, I'm not sure about that. So you Australians, hit me up in the comments. Is this even remotely true? Hit me up in the comments.
Very well known all around the world for calling everyone mate in a very friendly way.
There you go, Mike. Good, how are you?
But if you're in the workplace, this is not considered professional. Again, this depends on the industry. I have some friends who work in construction, and saying mate to their colleagues is very, very common, and that's fine. But just to be safe, avoid saying mate or using a lot of slang. As I said before, Australia is super multicultural, and that's one of the best things about working here. Because of this, you're going to get to meet a lot of people from all over the world and different cultures. And I think this is one of the best things because it's really, really going to open your mind. I'll give you an example. Before coming to Australia, I had never ever tried Indian food in my life. The truth is that I never really had access to it. It's not very common in my country. So when one of my colleagues from India heard this, she couldn't believe it. So the following day, she cooked and brought me a dal makhani, which is an amazing Indian dish. And since then, I've loved Indian food. It's one of my favorite foods in the world. If I hadn't been working here, I would have never been exposed to these kind of cultures. Yeah, I think that's one of the best things about Australian workplaces. And speaking of cultural diversity, Australian workplaces usually celebrate different cultural festivities such as Chinese New Year, Diwali, Ramadan. Yeah, that's amazing as well because it really opens your mind about all these different cultures and countries and history and traditions. So it's pretty valuable. after work drinks. It's also very common in Australia. This usually happens on Fridays or Thursdays, but it can be any day of the week. After a long day at work, you go to the pub with your colleagues and have a beer and snacks and just talk about life in general. And that's super common in Australia. Takeaway coffee is also pretty big in Australia, especially Melbourne. The coffee culture in Melbourne is huge, and you'll see everyone in the morning walking around the city with their reusable cups, going to the cafe next door with their colleagues and having takeaway coffee, or just sitting in the cafe and having meetings there as well. And going for lunch with your colleagues is also something super common in Australia, usually to celebrate birthdays or some work event. And work breaks usually go for 30 minutes or 1 hour. But I talk about all that in my next video, so stay tuned. And of course, most workplaces in Australia have end of year parties, and I think this is very common in all countries. The end of year event is usually in December, and you go and dance and eat and drink with your colleagues and have a big party and celebrate the end of the year.
Yes, you mentioned the end of the year, which is very common everywhere in the world, and I agree. I'm wondering, why isn't politics and religion something that is common in Australia? She didn't say it was just in the workplace, but she made it appear that it's in general. So I don't know how she came to that conclusion. I don't know if there's statistics on that, but it's crazy to think that religion and politics are not really something people talk about or debate about in Australia. I don't believe that. I don't even believe, if I'm going to see, even if I see stats showing about maybe like how often this kind of setting in terms of people having discussions with politics and religion, even if I see some stats from even a credible source, I still won't believe that, because this is something old as day. When people argue and debate about religion and politics, it's just a never-ending thing, and it's just something that's always debatable. And she made a good point when it comes to, since Australia is a multicultural place, you get to be exposed to different cultures, cuisines, and different habits, and then things you would never be exposed to in your country. You could actually get a chance to learn other things about a culture that you never thought, that you probably never give a second thought, and you might even like some of the things you're going to find out about the culture, not just in the food aspect. I know she talk about the food aspect, so she likes good food, I'm assuming, but there are other things beyond food that you can really appreciate about other cultures, as you in a country like Australia that's very diverse. So it could really open your horizons, and even to a point take away your ignorance, if there is any kind of ignorance in you. Yeah, so this was very interesting. Made a lot of good points there. A lot of the things she stated, especially at the beginning, I would say it's common worldwide, I would say, but there are some things that's a little different. She mentioned that, really not sure if I believe it. If you want to see that long journal, I should do hit me up on Dyce Reacts. We have the music reactions. This is where I'm going to be making my exit. Until next time, peace out.